recording this session as of this point. So just so you all know. First of all, some housekeeping. If you would please, if you're not speaking, please mute your phone so that we don't record anybody's accidental background noise. And then Michelle will go first. And once she finishes, obviously, we'll unmute and have a chance to have some discussion and offer some comments to her. We had originally 5 presentations for today, but 2 folks have had to drop off. So today we'll hear from Michelle, and we'll hear from the tag team of Eric and Bruce, and then we'll hear from Vince in that order. So without further ado, Michelle, I will hand you the presenter rights and you can go to town.
Okay.
And I think you should have it.
Okay, and so does everyone see the Transportation Networks page?
Yes?
Yeah. Okay, great. So I've never edited a wiki page before, so I spent a little time this week playing around with it, and then kind of went with the approach of I'm just going to stick a whole bunch of stuff in there and then get some hopeful feedback today, and then start refining the content. I know I need to enlist more people to help me with the content and adding more references. But I went with the format of just being able to sum up the category of transportation networks in a couple of sentences in the beginning. And then there's a little introduction that I think is just kind of left over from what was there before. And then I have network types. So I have highway networks, transit networks, just a couple of sentences about each, and then it will link to these other pages that I created. So this is the highway networks link. With some attributes on there and then some node information. It's mainly just placeholders that people can add more data and information. And the transit networks page, I've already found there. I'm not sure who started it, but there's a whole bunch of information, so I just linked it to all this data. And then other networks, non-motorized freight networks, I created a link, but no content yet. And super network stuff along with the reference. So here is the current state of practice section. There's a little bit about the network representation, but I'd like to add some more information specifically about what different MPOs are using or what their network looks like and how they maintain it and manage it. So need to talk to other MPOs and kind of collect some more data and hopefully add a little bit more content of specifically what people are doing. Then there's a section on developing the network and data sources. And I found quite a bit. I was starting to type a lot, and then I found a lot of this information was already included in the travel model validation and reasonableness checking manual site. So I just linked it to that. Oops. Actually, I think I was supposed to link it somewhere else. Yeah, like this section right here is, I think we're meant to link it to. And then visualization, I haven't done anything with. There's just kind of a placeholder there as well as the research needs, and then here's some references. So that's the basic layout. I did have one question on, so when I was starting to do this in the reasonableness checks, that's when I found all this information a lot of that information was already available in this travel model validation reasonableness checking manual page. So my question is, and I think we've already talked about it, is whether or not we should be linking it to this, and then people can start editing it, and then it might not actually look like the manual if people edit it enough, but if that's okay to do because there's still the PDF version untouched somewhere else.
That's correct.
I think
this is out here to be edited, so you can link to it, and if they want the original, they can find their way to the PDF. But yeah, it's fine to link to it that somebody might edit it. I think we're going to develop some kind of a little banner to put on pages that started like this manual did as sections out of an existing report that just sort of says, oh, by the way, if you want the original of this, here's the PDF to the original. But this is one that's living and breathing on the TFResource or something like that.
Okay. That's what I thought. So I had at one point created a reasonableness checks page when I had started editing it, and that's when I found this other stuff. So I think I'll just redirect it to that section. Right now it's just copied and pasted in, but I can redirect it. So I guess that's pretty much as far as I've gotten. So if anyone has any feedback on where it needs to go or any changes to make, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. I like your use of graphics. The more we can throw that kind of thing in to break up the monotony of all of our words, the better. So that's awesome. And a question for you about the resources that you listed at the bottom. Are they all resources that are actually now, I mean, if you went to them, is there a resource page that has that, or are some of them are things that are not yet entered as resources?
Well, most of them are more of references, and I think like network resources. I still need to work on trying to find more resources that are specifically networks. But these two were already there.
Okay.
That I referenced, and so those are definitely already resources.
Great. And are the other two things you can link to somehow as well and make them a resource page, or are they?
This one was just what was already in there before. I think it's just a quote. I haven't looked at it as a document, actually.
Okay.
And this is a paper that Rick Donnelly gave me that he suggested adding. So I think it's a new TRB paper for this year.
Okay. Okay. Do other people have questions or comments for Michelle?
Yeah, this is Bruce. I had one comment, and it's partly for Michelle and partly for, I guess, myself and others who are curators. We obviously have to sort of strike a balance between kind of providing links to other sources for more detail, and then just within the writing that we're doing, providing enough substance so that it's a little bit directive. And like for the reasonableness checks, I'm wondering if just like a bullet list of the types of checks that you might want to, that you should be aware of, that apply to networks, even if it's sort of an aggregated set of bullets, before sending them off to the reasonableness checking manual would be helpful. It's really a question. I don't know if I have a specific preference on it, but I think all of us are going to have to kind of deal with that balancing between being short and sweet and directive to links, and then having substance within the page itself.
Yeah, kind of like what I did with the data sources. I sent a link, sent them on a link for more information, but I still included like, 5 or 6 real quick listings. And I can't remember who said it last time we met, that it was like the 3 scrolls rule. So I kind of tried to keep it to that length. And so I did end up, I think I had some under the reasonableness checks, and then I kept deleting them because the bullet points kind of take up a lot of space. But
I missed the 3 scrolls rule. Is that 3 scrolls for the entire topic page?
Yeah. Someone said that to me last time. It just kind of sticks out in my head as like a pretty good length for a first page, and then you can go into more detail otherwise. But
I do think that's a good point, though, and I don't know that there's a right answer of balancing. We don't want to frustrate our visitors by having to go, click to click to click to click to finally get to what they want, especially if it's somebody, as Vince mentioned a little bit ago, that really doesn't know a whole lot about what they're doing. And we know that's sort of our target audience at this point. They know enough, but they are looking for more. So the 3 scroll rule was, I think, Dave Schmidt's quote from our last webinar, and it's a good rule of thumb, I think, just so we don't have major run-on pages. But it might also lead you to think, well, maybe I need to break off, you know, break it. Maybe it's a topic circle that needs to be broken up a little bit or something too. So.
Yeah, I kind of thought that I wanted to save some more space for, because there's pretty much nothing under research and visualization, and then I'd like to add some more current practice stuff. So I think that's why I cut it out.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for Michelle? Okay. Well, good job. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work. And I think you've done a great job when you think about where we were in September and where we are now. It's just very impressive. You did. I pat you on the back, but you're too far away. So now, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just said thanks.
You're welcome. So next, Eric and Bruce. Eric, you said you're going to do the driving. So Michelle, can you hand it to Eric, or do I have to hand it to Eric?
I think I can.
Okay.
Is it
Eric Petersen? Petersen, okay. Not Peel. Although you could hand it to Eric Peel. I don't know. He might have something interesting to say about it. But.
So thank you. I just did show my screen. Has mine popped up yet or not yet?
It has.
It has. Okay. Well, ours is probably 4.5 clicks, and we'll debate, you know, whether that's right or, you know, we can certainly trim some stuff here. But we have still a long way to go, but I think we've filled out some of the key things we'd hoped to do. So let's just walk through a little bit. We start with just a generic, you know, what is the urban and metropolitan models about? Normally, probably the biggest single shortcoming is that, I mean, I can't speak for Bruce, but I almost only do metropolitan region-wide modeling. So I don't think there's anything that we've got in here that's specific to just urban or sub-regional modeling. So we talk a little bit about sketch modeling, but we don't really get below that, at least not at the moment. So that's something we may have to think about or bring somebody in to a little bit more expertise. So most of what I do have, and Bruce has added, is really regional. Anyway, so we got a little bit about the background and history, and this was the J. Douglas Carroll was the one that Kermit created for me back in Chicago, and we do link early on to the 4-step model, to trip-based models, since that's certainly how the early models all were. And we talk a little bit about the increasing complexity of the models and the move, at least at the large MPOs, to microsimulation and advanced models. Then both Bruce and I thought that we want to talk a little bit about the governmental context, because most of these are done, not only are they done to inform policy, which we talk about a little bit later, but you know, there's a specific reason the regional modeling has developed the way it has in the U.S., and it's because of the legislation. So we point to a little bit about the greenhouse gas, and then we've got the regulatory framework. I can maybe jump to. So the greenhouse gas, we're actually just linking to the existing air quality modeling page, but this is something we added, the regulatory framework. So it's short, but what it does is it actually links to all of the official summaries of the legislation. Now, whether every one of these has to be its own resource page, or we just say, well, you know, the whole point here is to link so people can go learn a lot about these legislations if they feel like it. That's, I don't know, again, up in the air. I don't have the time right now to write up all the stuff for every one of these laws. And these do point to sort of summaries about the laws. Then we talk about the policy relevance, and this is a mostly placeholder. We do have we're going to have some bullet points there that talk about kind of key things and the increasing complexity of and the demands placed upon regional and urban models. And some of these things we can cross-link to existing pages and other places, we'll go ahead and write some things. And this is where we certainly hope to create some more links to some TRB research and so forth. It's the kind of thing that we knew we needed to get to, but we didn't yet. Now okay. All right, so that's the beginning. Then we've got a little short piece on current practice, and what we've done here is two things. First, this also clearly will need to be its own resource page, but in the moment we're linking directly to the best planning practice that came out in 2012. And so yeah, there'll be a little resource page that kind of is an intermediate step that talks a little bit about what this is about, but clearly it's, you know, kind of guidance and policy for regional MPOs. But what we are kind of pleased with is this came out pretty well. So we've got the documentation where we've now got a list of some of the key MPOs, and so it goes directly to their transportation planning documentation and sometimes to their calibration and validation reports. So I thought this was kind of like a nice feature where you would just, again, I guess theoretically every one of these could be a different page, but I'm not planning on doing that because I really don't have time to summarize what's going on and how every one of these models is different. But people can certainly go off and look at them if they would like. So, and we can add a lot more here. These were just some of the more interesting ones that I want to start with. Then we go and talk a little bit about the small and medium-sized MPOs, and there's also a peer exchange that kind of summarizes a lot of the key issues. This itself feels very wiki-like, so we thought, you know, just jumping to that page was not bad. Kind of has all the key issues here. Was unclear how much I could grab and summarize. I think I really felt more comfortable just saying this looked and felt a lot like what we were going for, so I just went directly to it. And here we're linking to data, and we've got a new thing on some census. So, oh, actually, we added a bit here, so we added directly to the Census Journey to Work in the American Community Survey. Then we talk a little bit more about the large MPOs, and we have a few references. What I don't know is how to do the footnoting thing, so I'll have to learn how to do that. Like, we've got some EPA links, and then again, some links to the combined land use transport, which is increasingly an issue for large MPOs. Then both Bruce and I thought, well, you know, since this is going to be a resource, particularly for junior modelers, hopefully, we'll talk about some practical considerations. And this part will get shortened down and become its own. We'll probably take this out and this will be a link to a new page that has this, the how-to and some of the key issues. And then, you know, there'll be a whole bunch of bullet points into that. Now, the problem is so many of the things that are practical considerations are also considerations for four-step models and zoning, which is the temp spatial data. So it'll be hard to say how much we write and how much we just, you know, go off to the other pages, but this is where we expect a lot of interlinking to keep happening. Mm-hmm. Then whether we leave this here, move it around a little bit, we've got some discussion of sketch planning models, which are often used as both as a kind of well, they're relied on a little bit more heavily by the small and medium-sized MPOs, but they can be useful even in a large MPO setting if there's something where you don't need the entire model to be run. It's just you need some quick answers, and maybe the starting point is sketch modeling, and then you run the model for the subset of the alternatives, perhaps. And then we thought we would definitely want to talk about how there's a linkage between a regional model to the state level model. I think this probably will have to become a separate page, because right now it's a little bit too detailed for what it's at, but it's not actually helpful, as helpful as I wanted. And we did not have a chance to fill this out, but there'll be, you know, again, like a link to a page that will talk about some of the advanced stuff, and this is, again, where we expect to link to a lot of the TRB research. At the moment, we have 4 references. These 2 are, again, direct. They're already referenced up above, but we've got them down here. Special Report 288, which is the National Academy of the TRB report on the state of the practice, and then the best planning practice. These 2, the ones, transportation plan on trial and the political context, I don't know. Probably the transportation plan on trial will make it as a resource page and talk just a little bit about the book. We're not going to be able to link to them. Neither of these are online. I did, however, talk to Marty Wax about a 3rd document, which is one he co-wrote with Jennifer Dill. And he's seen what she thinks about putting the entire piece online, and if she's okay with it, he'll figure that out. And so there'll be something we could actually offer that hasn't been online before. It's a piece he did in the mid-90s that ties in with this whole political context and the regulatory framework for the Clean Air Act and transportation planning. So I think it'd be really nice to get that. So, I mean, there's certainly a lot more we want to do, but we thought this was a reasonable start, and we did like some of the linkages to the MPO documentation. So, yeah, any questions and suggestions?
And I have to stipulate, Eric and I have talked a few times, but Eric's been doing all the work on this. So what he just ran through is all his work, and I feel like he's done a really great job of kind of taking a really wide and diverse and somewhat, well, a complicated and very varied topic, and kind of shown sort of the breadth of that, which is pretty much what we're trying to do, is to show the breadth of issues. MPOs are, metropolitan models and MPOs are all so much different. They're all individuals, and it's hard to generalize. So it's really sort of a guided tour of both the regulatory stuff and some of the types of models in play in different MPOs, and some of the key references on current practice and best practice. So my hat's off to Eric. He's squeezed out a lot of great content in the time that he's put into it, and I hope I get my chance to fill in some of the blanks and do a little bit more editing than I have so far.
Great. Yeah, I think you've definitely got a great framework for everything here. I like the way you've thought it out. I really like the page that lists the links to the other MPO documentation, and I don't know what everybody else thinks about that, but I know those change fairly frequently, so it may be just as well to link to the website as opposed to actually linking to a resource document. So I'm not sure that's not just, I mean, the approach you took is probably just fine for now. So
one of the things we did want to get from the group, though, is what kind of topic headings we're missing, or which ones are included that might belong somewhere else.
Good question.
I was just going to, on the references, I was just going to mention the inside the black box piece, which I think somebody has already created a resource page for. I don't know who did that, but I think that might be a good general reference for you guys to include.
Sure.
Yeah,
I guess would be the 4-step modeling page, but I'll certainly go and look. And yeah, I think the other thing is I definitely want to look at some more examples of what people are doing for the resource pages, right? And because I know there's a few out there, and I just didn't have a chance. But definitely the Garrett and Wax book should be one of those for sure. So, no, it's a great suggestion. I'm assuming it's already there, and we'll just drop in a link. So.
It was part of the original site way back.
The references right now are a little bit wax heavy, and
well,
I don't want to take away any of the ones that are there, but I do think there's some other, and I think over time we'll add a few other references to different things.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this really was just a beginning.
This is Kim. This comment is really going to apply to basically everybody's topic circles or pages, but as we get to the annual meeting, that's a perfect opportunity to reach out to specific individuals to help with some of this. So, I was thinking about some of the MPO pages you have, for example. If there are MPOs that you really think could contribute a lot to the understanding of the models by having more detail, you could ask a modeler from that MPO, just as an example, to come in and add more of a summary about kind of the progression of their model and where they are now, and those folks could probably link you to, or could create links to very specific parts of their documentation or the explanations for their models. Mm-hmm. And that would really apply to almost anybody's topic area, I think. One of the things that Julie and Brian Gardner and I talked about the last time we were talking is that it may be, we may get better results if we ask people for very specific defined pieces to at least get them started contributing. And so this may just be a way of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like that idea, but particularly when you said the kind of progression of the model. I think under our practical considerations, one of the things both Bruce and I are pretty well aware of is, the process of upgrading the model, and then what you do in the interim while you're waiting for it to be done, fixed. And these are things that are really important for a practical level, but aren't always discussed in fact, never discussed in literature, right? So what do you do while your model is out in the shop, basically?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Good job again, guys. I'm just so proud of everyone. Y'all are doing a great job.
Well, deadlines are our friend and our enemy at the same time.
Well, I know. That's the only way any of us ever get anything done, I think. So, and again, you were apologizing for not have gotten to several of these things, and Bruce, you as well. But the point here isn't to completely finish. The point is to just get a really solid start so that when we do get to TRB and you're reaching out to specific folks, like Kim mentioned, there's something real there for them to look at and understand where they would plug in, as opposed to just a list of topics, which is what we've had before. So I think
that's true. It's so much easier to make changes and edits when you've got a solid start.
Absolutely.
That blank page is so hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Vince is,
how do I pass it
on? I think I can do it if.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'll just take it from you and give it to Vince. Okay, Vince. Okay. I think you should have it.
All right. Let's see if I can figure out the right monitor to share. Here we go, I think. Do you now see the spatial interaction models page?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So a good part of this main page for this circle, I did for our get together in September, and I've made a few small tweaks to it, but haven't changed it substantially from that, but just review. I'm not sure how much I got into it then. I think that this topic is one that a lot of people know a little bit about, and so but may be ignorant of other kind of important issues or aspects or types of methods and so forth. So one of the goals that I wanted for this general kind of topic circle main page, and obviously this is sort of reflected in my comment earlier, is that I want to try to give people a broad, general kind of basis, or a big picture sense of the topic first, because they may come looking for something. They may have a little bit of knowledge about, gravity models or something, and they may come looking for something on doubly constrained gravity models or something. And I hope that there's an opportunity to sort of expose them to, these important related topics. So hopefully I can strike the right balance between doing that without overloading them with information. Right now, I think I've got a lot of content on this page, and I think some of that may move to child topic pages as I get those more developed. But right now, things are more here. So there's a general introduction, which kind of gives both sort of the basic idea of what spatial interaction models are, and I tried to cast it very broadly in this kind of initial definition to acknowledge the fact that these same models are sometimes applied to other kinds of problems besides just travel forecasting. Gravity models are also used sometimes to understand other kinds of spatial interactions. I don't know that I directly acknowledged, some of the odd things like communications, but anyway, I tried to cast it large, and then also though, wanted to give the context in travel forecasting, which is distribution, and so I'm going to come back to this. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is the relationship between spatial interaction models, this topic circle, and trip distribution. I think that the two are almost synonymous in my mind. If there's a distinction, I would say that the spatial interaction models to some extent refers to the methods, or the models formally used for trip distribution, where trip distribution in some sense would be the purpose for which they're used in travel forecasting. Anyway, giving a nod to gravity models and destination choice models as the most common, in the introduction, I then have a brief, acknowledgement of the various kind of explanatory variables that are used in explaining travel patterns spatially. And then I give an overview of the types of spatial interaction models, kind of touching briefly on gravity models, destination choice models, pivoting and related models, intervening opportunity models, convening destination models, and then kind of combined models and feedback. And then I have some kind of related methodological topics like constraints and balancing, which are issues, for all of the above kind of model types. Then I have a section on development and data sources where I link to the spatial data topic circle. You'll notice throughout that I've got a lot of broken, I have a lot of stubs here, and that's intentional so that to hopefully help myself and others to create these pages. These are things that I think deserve their own topic page. So I go through some of the data and estimation, calibration, and validation. I do refer people to the manual there too. I briefly discuss kind of accuracy and issues, and then I'm still cleaning up. I have references. I'm working on that a little bit. So that's kind of what I have right now. I am in the process of developing some of the stub topic pages for this. Serendipitously, I had to give a presentation on destination choice models here last week, actually, and so I wound up creating a lot of content, which I hope to port over, to the TFResource's site. Obviously, I just need to kind of reformat that in proper sentences and so forth, rather than slide bullet points and whatnot. So I'm working on that, and I have some initial drafts of a couple of those pages in Word that I've not pulled over into online yet, but hope to here fairly soon. The other two things that I've done. One is again, going back to the deadlines being helpful. I only just this morning, but I did finally follow up and write the email that I've been intending to, inviting David Boyce to hopefully contribute to a few specific topic pages. In particular, I know he has good course notes on gravity models and on some of the related topics like impedance functions, which I think would require relatively little, just a little formatting, more or less, to kind of pull over and create a page from it. And he is such a wonderful guy, and sincerely interested in educating people, that I'm hopeful that he will pick me up on that. And I also, the other specific thing that I mentioned was, the combined distribution assignment models, which he's also done a lot of research on, and so I think it would make good sense for him to add a page on that topic, and I think he could do that pretty easily.
So you'll be happy to know, Vince, that just before the call started, his request for being a contributor came through. So he reacted very quickly to your email.
Doesn't surprise me.
No.
He's such a great guy.
He's a good guy.
So that's good. I hope to reach out to some others, and again, like you had suggested, Julie, I'm thinking that TRB may be a good time to do that. The other thing that I've done is I searched through the TFResource's site looking for references to distribution and destination choice, and a few other keywords like that, and linked not a huge number. I was kind of surprised actually that I didn't find more locations, but probably a couple dozen places I found that I linked back to this page or one of the main stubs, and trying to improve kind of the connectivity. So in doing that, that's most of what I've done. In doing that, though, I discovered that, so I for instance, you know, I went and found the trip-based models page, and was linking trip distribution back to spatial interaction models, but discovered that there's already a trip distribution page that I don't know if Alan is on the call or not with us today, but Alan had created a nice little kind of introductory page on trip distribution, but it is, you know, there's a lot of redundancy with the spatial interactions page, and I think the main difference is largely that I tried to use generic language and define terms, you know, tried to define everything I was using, and I think that Alan has kind of used sort of traditional, you know, trip-based modeling vocabulary more on this page. So one of the things that I was hoping we might be able to talk about, and it would be great if Alan is on the call, but I don't know if he is.
I don't think he is.
Julie, yeah, sorry, what was that?
I don't believe he is on the call.
Okay. Well, so one of the time, you know, so I wanted to raise this question, though, sort of with the group about whether it would make sense to, you know, combine these pages or not. So that was something that I was hoping that we might have a little bit of discussion about, and that was kind of what I was hoping to share today.
Okay, cool. Well, I think you pose a really good question to the group about what do you do when you're trying to create a page and somebody already did. I would think the bottom line would be to try to bring them together and not, you know, duplicate. But others, you guys have opinions about how this is a great example for us to talk about, really, and how Vince should maybe move ahead with that.
Yeah, Vince, this is Bruce. I really liked the page you set up. I felt like it was really broad and covered the whole range pretty well. And I hope that whatever Alan has put up can be either linked or somehow coordinated with what you've already got. One thing I wanted to suggest, though, and it's sort of a hot topic with a lot of individuals that we interact with here, and it's I guess generically I would call it substitutes for spatial interaction, and the thought that there's increasing options for people to deal with their daily activities without a lot of spatial interaction. And I'm thinking of, you know, everything from telecommuting to just digital, online, mobile activities that don't reduce or eliminate some of the need for travel. And it's obviously something where there's a lot of kind of fresh research going on, but it would be great to have the topic recognized and added somehow, and
Sure.
maybe a link or a separate topic or a separate, you know, resource on the site.
Yeah, I think it certainly probably it might make sense to add something on that kind of with the issues, you know, under the issues, and then maybe hopefully somebody, you know, obviously you're obviously interested in this, so if you feel so inclined to, create a related page for specifically on the topic, that would be great.
Touche, Vince.
So,
one other option, this is Kim, to sliding it over to Bruce, would be there is a committee called the oh gosh, they changed their name. It has it's ABD 10, I think, or 20. It has to do with communications and technology, and that nexus of substitution with travel behavior is exactly what the committee's focused on. So it would definitely be a good place to kind of hit during the annual meeting and maybe talk to them about creating a page that could come off of yours or any number of other pages that we might have established.
Yeah, I think.
So,
go ahead.
Vince, this is Eric. I guess the question I have when you're talking about Alan's page is it the fact that it's an incubator topic and not a child page, or is it? I do understand you don't want it to be completely repetitive, but it's interesting because people are going to come to things different ways, right? And so there's a pretty good chance they're going to come to destination choice a different way than through the spatial interaction model page. In fact, I'd say it's a lot more likely they're just going to search out destination choice. So having some redundancy seems fine, but I think you do want to try to coordinate some and, pare a little bit out of his and maybe move some of your sentences to Alan's page. In general, what I've been doing is I do the search, is there an existing topic, and then if there is, and there often is, then I may just add a sentence or two that's all I want to add. But I've been just doing little bits. I guess if you really feel that the destination choice is really part of it, then you want to clean it up and make it a little more consistent with your topic. So.
Yeah. So right. With destination choice, I feel like that's a child topic. It's a distinct topic, and I definitely think that's it's importantly related, but it's kind of a distinct subtopic. I guess what I'm struggling with, sort of, with just distribution more generally, is sort of it's hard for me to distinguish between distribution and what should be on, say, the distribution page and spatial interaction models and what would be on those pages. In my mind, those two things are pretty close to synonyms.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the whole point of a wiki? I think if there's a page that already exists and you think some of what's on there needs to be added to, edited, reworded, changed, whatever, I know we're sensitive right now because we all know each other and everybody's working so hard to develop their pages. But I think what Eric mentioned, only maybe in your case, Vince, it might be a little bigger than just a few sentences. I think you should go to the trip distribution page and add what you think needs to be added, or to make it include the stuff that you wanted to reference that Alan hadn't yet. The other option is to use the talk page and sort of reach out to him in that way and say, hey, I think this kind of content should go in there, and you guys could kind of discuss it a little bit that way, and then you can edit the page.
Right. I did actually add to the start of the talk page to do that, to reach out to Alan.
Great.
I guess my concern here, though, is that, if we really think that the content is identical, or should be identical, I don't think we want two pages, because, you'd have people editing one and not the other, and so they'd wind up out of sync,
right,
when they should be the same thing. And so that's my concern here, because I don't think that these are related topics. I think they're just one topic. And,
yes.
And I think we should decide what we want to call that topic and then just have one page for it.
And are you referencing trip distribution and destination choice? Or are you talking about a trip
And space.
distribution page you tried to create? I'm confused.
Sorry, trip distribution and spatial interaction models, I
Oh, I
think
see.
are the same topic. And we could choose to call it one or the other, but we decided to call the topic circle spatial interaction models. But
So
I think, yeah.
maybe it's just that on the trip, I can see why we have a trip distribution page, because historically, four-step model, that's what those of us who were in school way back when, that's what we learned about. But maybe what it needs to point to spatial interaction models then. Is that what the point you're trying to make? So it needs to be rewritten a little bit so that if somebody stumbles on trip distribution, they quickly realize, oh, wow, there's this whole section on spatial interaction, not just the traditional little trip distribution model.
Right. So, the spatial interaction models, section has, both sort of the traditional methods like gravity models as well as destination choice models and so forth. And so, yeah, I think that we want people who are looking for trip distribution to find all the spatial interaction models, to find that topic circle.
Right.
And so, I guess, one possibility could be just to have like a redirect page that's, for trip distribution that says, we discussed trip distribution, methods for trip distribution, methods and issues or something related to trip distribution under the spatial interaction models topic circle.
Right. But trip distribution is still going to be a child page of yours anyway, right? It can't be all by itself it's too much to put on the...
Right now it's a child of trip-based models.
Well, this is Bruce. I think if it's trip distribution and not, well, I don't know. To me, it feels like I like the spatial interaction as a parent just because it's such a broad coverage of a topic that's consistent with a lot of different types of models. And I don't know. Maybe you can be linked as a child to more than one topic, but I feel like what Vince wrote would be apparent to something that's more narrow.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't see why it can't be a child of both trip-based models and spatial interaction models. And at the top of the trip distribution, you can just say it's a type of spatial interaction model and have a link to that. So people, if they're typing in trip distribution, then they can see it's that type of model. Maybe they want to find out other types of models, and they can just go to that one. And like at the bottom of that trip distribution page, it would have both category tags for spatial interaction and trip-based models.
I like that.
Vince, I have one other comment for you. I thought
sure.
If the I certainly understand where you're going with taking the PowerPoint and probably David Boyce's notes and turning them into text. But if you feel comfortable and you can, it may not be a bad idea to also just host the PowerPoint itself. I think we're going to have at least some. I think that Chandra had quite a number of PowerPoint presentations with annotations, right? So there's certainly some people that would probably react or read it. We're kind of trained to go through PowerPoint really quickly, and they're like, oh, great. So I guess I wouldn't see it as an either or, right? You might do both.
Right. Yeah, PowerPoints are actually one of the resources. A presentation that's one of the options for a resource, so would be easy too.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Might be quicker, especially if you have notes or something on the bottom, then you can convert it and people can have at it.
Not that you don't want to take part of it and formalize it and put it in a page, but I don't think it's a bad idea to put an edited version of the PowerPoint as a resource. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you, Vince. Appreciate it very much. Anybody have any other questions or comments for him? You've come across some good issues for us to discuss in developing what you're doing. I think that was good for us to think through the debate about trip distribution and how you could kind of connect the two, and that's good.
Yeah, no, and thanks for everyone's thoughts and inputs on that. I think we can, you know, I'll try to follow up with Alan and see if we can structure it in such a way that it makes sense as a child, you know, to both circles. I guess just because I've not done that before, is there any? How do we do that technically? Is it just, yeah, I guess on the edit page, how would we make it a child of both?
We can help you do that. I mean, if you tell us how you want to do that, but it's just putting in that category and then you pick the category. Sorry, I'm really losing my voice. I'll stop croaking. Josie, you want to answer that question for him?
This isn't Josie, but I can.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, well, just anywhere on your spatial interaction page where we see trip distribution, you can just add a link that'll take it to the trip distribution page. And then I would maybe add something in the beginning at the top that would link it up to the spatial interaction models. That way, you know, you can see the relationship. And at the bottom or at the top, I'm not sure on that page particularly, I think you can put it anywhere. You should see some sort of link that says category, and then it probably has a colon and then trip-based models or something like that. You would just add that same thing, copy paste, but instead of trip-based models, you would just add the tag for spatial interaction models.
So Vince,
okay, great. That's easy enough.
And if you have trouble, just holler.
Will do.
Okay. I think that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, very much. I really appreciate your time. I know everybody's really busy. The recording will be out on the website in a little bit if you want to go back and review some of the comments or questions that people had. And we'll have another one next week. If you have time to dial in, that would be great. So with that, I think we'll sign off. Bye, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.